when my son was about 12, so I practiced religiously. I practiced absolutely every day for many, many years. And then when my son was about 12, I felt, when he was younger, we'd get babysitters and we could go to the Zen Center because we had babysitters for him, but he's 12. We couldn't get babysitters. And so wasn't comfortable leaving him home. And so I thought, well, I better stop going to the Zen Center for a while because he really needs me. And so I stopped going to the Zen Center, and I still practiced every day. And then I started to not practice. I practiced maybe twice a week. And then maybe I practiced once a week. And then I completely didn't practice. And this period went on for about 2 years. The slow, and then no practice at all. It's very interesting. And I'm very glad it happened because as a teacher, it means when someone comes in and says, I'm not practicing, I don't judge them. Because I went through it. I did it, And what was really interesting is, just like you, there was no reason. I couldn't point to something and say, this is why I'm not practicing. Which I think was because I'd done enough practice to know that any reason I gave was just, bullcrap, right? And so I had no reason whatsoever. And my husband, who was, at that point, he was a teacher already, and he was really upset. You must practice, And finally I said, if you keep telling me to practice, I'll never practice again. So just shut up, because you can't practice for someone else because they want you to practice. I mean, we all practice for each other. We're always practicing for someone else, but you can't practice to please somebody else's idea, right? You can't do that. So he finally shut up. And then a few months later, I very quietly started practicing again. I didn't tell him. When he wasn't home, I'd go down to our little Dharma room and I'd, bow and I'd sit, And finally, a few months after that, I said, you know what? I started practicing again, and he was cool about it. He didn't say, "Oh, that's wonderful," because then I would have had to stop. He just said, "Oh, good," like that. And yeah, so it's an interesting thing. What you're talking about is a really interesting thing. That on the one hand, the only real answer is just do it, and on the other hand, sometimes we don't. It's really strange. So I hope that you do start practicing again regularly. And I want to thank you for your honesty in front of all these people saying that. I will recommend something, which is a short practice. Something okay, here's a short practice. 4 great bows, 3 bows, sit for 10 minutes. Okay, you can fit that in. You don't have to get up at 6 o'clock. You can fit that in. And just, you can start with a very small practice. And then as that solidifies, you can find that it can extend and extend. And then you can find, okay, I can come to the Zen Center more, like that. Because Sangha is so important, But you can start with something like that, which I wish I'd figured out when I was not practicing. Start with something really tiny, something that there's no way you can't find the time to do. And just do it. It always comes back to that. Everything. All these things in our lives, 90% of them come back to just do it. So, good luck.